Godwin is at the door. He slid it open. He stands there, leans against the door frame with a fantastic smile on his face, looking in at Backgammon and Andrea Whistler. Godwin is not alone. He is with two other officers who are standing behind him, two guards. Godwin says, "I'm terribly sorry to interrupt your conversation, ladies, but we have a bit of a situation, military business, and we just need to ask you a couple of questions. May I see your tickets, please?" And Backgammon has leaned back, has been strumming her ukulele, and stops and is like, "Yeah, man, sure." Reaches in, pulls out her ticket, hands it over to Godwin. He picks it up, he takes a look at it, flips it over. "You're taking advantage of our program, are you?" And Backgammon is like, yeah, I am. This takes a little bit of background, by the way, which we'll cover as Godwin sort of smiles and hands the ticket back. Drifters, like Backgammon, in order to encourage them to not be drifters anymore, a policy was instituted that if, as a drifter, you turn yourself in a major police site or something and basically say, "I'm a drifter, but I want to be a settler now," no consequences and nothing on your record of the fact you were a drifter. It's just you are now a citizen. And as long as you follow all the rules of being a citizen, you're good. And we won't sort of half threaten to arrest you at any moment during the day. So Backgammon's ticket seemed to imply that that's what she was going to do. And he hands it back to her, and he reaches his hand out to Andrea. And Andrea kind of is frozen for just a moment. And Godwin is like, "Your ticket, please, ma'am?" And she's like, "Oh, yes, sorry. I'm sorry." And she reaches in and pulls out her ticket and hands it very quickly over to him. He picks it up, takes a look at it. "Andrea Whistler," he says. She's like, "Yes." "I'm very sorry about what happened with your husband. It was very brave of him. It would have been very, very easy for him to pin things on you with the way that the evidence was. But he didn't. He told the truth. I do have respect for him for that. You married a good man." And he smiles, hands her back the ticket, and she's just staring at him, Andrea. And there's fire behind her eyes as she's looking at him. And Godwin is just drinking it in. He's like, yep, I'm seeing what I thought I was going to see. And he's just looking for what her reactions are. Every minute detail he is trying to take in and process instantaneously. He hands back the ticket. Andrea takes a couple of moments and then reaches out, takes it, puts it away. And Godwin continues to smile, and he looks back and forth, and he says, "Now, how did you two meet? A drifter and the wife of the writer of that colorful pamphlet. How did you two get into contact?" Andrea is sweating and trying not to sweat, and her hands are shaking, and she's trying not to let them shake. And Backgammon is suddenly like, she had seen me perform once or twice, or something like that. Was that what it was, Andrea? And Andrea's like, "Yeah, I saw you perform. Saw you perform once." And Godwin is like, "Well, isn't that nice?" "Andrea Whistler, do you mind if we ask you some questions in private, in the hallway or in another compartment?" And Andrea, without looking at him, looking at Backgammon, says, "Yes, actually, I would mind that very much." And Godwin, still smiling, says, "Well, that's really too bad, because I'm ordering you to come answer some questions of mine. It'll only take a few minutes, no worries." And Backgammon says, "Yeah, listen, no, not cool. I'm pretty sure there's regulations. I'm pretty sure I read regulations somewhere that, not about taking people out of their rooms, but male-female relations, not cool." And Godwin says, Oh, that's what, I won't be asking the questions. In fact, we have an officer right here." And he turns, and they had not realized it before because they all wear the same kind of uniform. But he points, and it's one of the officers is a woman who is standing there. She's got a bit of a scar on her cheek and has thicker lips and so forth, but in his kind of very short hair, she was wearing a hat, so you couldn't quite see, and the way that the lighting was falling, she was kind of cast in shadow. But as she steps forward, you realize, yep, she's a woman, and she would kill you in a heartbeat, probably. And Godwin smiles again, and he's like, problem solved. So, are we going to do this the easy way? Andrea Whistler? Andrea, for a moment, almost compulsively, is about to get up, and Backgammon is like, oh, listen, hey, listen. And Backgammon sits up and is about to get up herself, and Godwin, still smiling, no expression change, says, sit back down in your seat or I will break your face. Backgammon looks at him, holds her hands out as though in peace, leans back in her seat. But then she says to Andrea, make them come and get you. And Andrea is kind of like, I don't think that's going to help very much. Noelle, Clarence, please bring her out into the hallway. And Godwin steps aside, and the two guards step in, are moving towards both either side of Andrea, and the moment that Noelle's hand touches Andrea, Backgammon leaps up. She almost snake writhes her body and leaps up onto her feet. Both of the guards instantly reach for their guns. Backgammon has already pulled out a big, thick hunting knife that she looks like she made it herself out of like a big metal shard or something. And she already up, she pulls that out. It looks like she had it in a sheath that she had stuffed in her pants so people wouldn't see it. And she brings that out and she slashes Noelle across the face and she smacks it into the head of one of the guards. She does it in just one swift movement. Pow, pow. Noelle is shocked for a moment, and Backgammon brings it onto the top of her head. Crack! Both of them are bleeding from the head. Blood has smacked up against the wall. Both of the guards have collapsed down. One of them is screaming because he's still conscious. Andrea is just sitting there petrified. And Godwin has already come in. He's reaching for his gun, and Backgammon very quickly has leaped off of the bed, tries to slash him. It looks like she's trying to like cut his head off almost, but he has managed to step back. She slashes him across the cheek, growls like a lion. He tries to throw a punch. She ducks. He slams into the wall and nearly breaks through the plastic. He tries to throw another punch. She ducks. She slashes him, and then grapple with her. I know this is not nearly as exciting probably as it is to me in my head because I'm not very good at doing the onomatopoeia. And that just broke all the tension. Sorry about that. But she's ripped up around onto the back of him and is trying to choke him up against the wall. By now, people are coming out of their compartments wondering what on earth is going on. And Andrea gets up and runs, and you see Backgammon throw the knife down the hallway ahead of her. As though to say, you can take my knife. And Andrea is running, and Godwin, and he tries to smack Backgammon up against the wall. Backgammon manages to hit it with her feet, which have brought back, and she pushes forward, and they both stumble back into the compartment room. And Godwin is like, I have had about enough of this. And he manages to reach up, breaks the grip of her arms around his neck, grabs her by the back of her shirt, and literally pulls her entire weight over the top of his body and brings her down onto the ground. But very quickly she manages to get back up. She punches him in the face, punches him in the gut, and he literally hardly even flinches when she does this, and he's just staring right at her. Pow, pow, and he says, my turn. Grabs her by the front of the face, pow! Smacks her into the glass behind, and she spider webs it, and her eyes just go completely fogged over, and she falls face first onto the ground, bleeding from the back of the head. And Godwin is standing there. A number of people have gathered around the back of the compartment. Godwin pulls out his gun, fires into the air. Everybody screams and backs up, and he says, "Is anybody here a doctor or have medical experience? Basic first aid, anything?" And everybody is just, and he's like, "Whatever, I don't care. Somebody get my men bandaged up and get the blood stopped." And he's walked out into the compartment, and he already sees the door closing as Andrea has picked up the knife and has already gone through to head into the next compartment. And he runs down the compartment hallway. He rips open the door. Andrea is already on her way. She's running as fast as she can down this next compartment. People are coming out. They heard the gunshot. They're like, "What is going on?" And Godwin has already ripped open the other door. He's stepped into the compartment, and he's like, "Stop her! Stop her!" And none of them know what's going on. None of them want to touch her. And she's got a knife that she's brandishing in front of her. And she runs up to the next door, and he's like, he doesn't want to do it for a moment. He's hesitating, and he never hesitates, but he's got the gun, and he's thinking, "I could shoot her in the leg. I could shoot her in the leg, but I could shoot somebody else. I cannot shoot anyone else but her." And he's thinking about it for a moment, and he pulls it down, but he's not going to pull the trigger. And he finally pulls it back, and he runs barreling down the hallway as she slams the door behind him and is run into the next compartment. He's like, "Get out of my way!" And he rips open the door, runs inside to the next area, and he realizes as he stops, because the lights are off, it's a baggage compartment. It's thick. It's just filled with stacks, suitcases. And he halts. And he sees at the end of the baggage compartment, one of the doors is just barely closed. And the wind is coming through. No sign of Andrea. And he slowly steps over to the door. And he's thinking to himself, slowly, he's looking through, and he sees that the other door hasn't been opened. And he thinks to himself, "No." Slowly closes the door, turns around, looks around the baggage compartment. She's in here. He looks back and forth, and he doesn't really have a rational reason for it. But every once in a while, Godwin gets a hunch. Just something about all the info. He's looking around, and often he rationalizes it. He says, "Oh, it must be for this reason or this reason." But if he were to be fully honest with himself, he would know. Intuition. Every once in a while, and he just knows she's in the room. He keeps with his back to the wall, knows she's got a knife. He's got his gun out. It's ready. He actually reaches his hands up, gun in one, hand empty in the other. He looks back and forth, scanning the room. He says out loud, "If you come out and show yourself willingly, I swear on my own life, I will not hurt you. We did not attack your friend attacked us first. So let's just calm down and make this easy." He hears very quietly at first, it almost starts to hurt his ears a little bit. He's like, "What is that?" He has his gun ready, and he steps forward, and he looks around. He's looking around, and it starts to get louder. It starts to shove some baggage aside as he moves towards to see what it is, and he sees right there, it's not really a pipe, it's more like a cable that's fastened to the wall with metal things. It's thick rubber. Or it's not technically rubber, it's a different kind of material that he himself doesn't know, because he doesn't know about benzamite. He hasn't been trained with that level of clearance. All he sees is a thick tube extending through, and he does know enough to know that that is a specialized tube that has to do with the benzamite flow through the train, through the metro rail, and there is a big, thick slash across a part of the tube. Very quick. It wasn't sawed through. It doesn't even look like it fully penetrated, but that was enough that now there is seeping blue, sparkling gel that is bursting now and is seeping down and is making this high-pitched and it's getting louder and it's starting to bubble a little bit as it comes out. Godwin's eyes just go wide as he looks at this. That lunatic. And he turns around and he realizes he was completely wrong. She had enough time quickly to run in, slash the rubber tube, run through the door and possibly leave one of them open so that he might think, was it reverse psychology anyway? He doesn't have enough time to think. He just is going through and he's like, this is the most complex thing ever. How did she think to do this? He's like, it doesn't have enough time. He needs to handle this situation now, but he doesn't know what to do. He runs over. He manages to find on the side something where he can contact the engineer. He's able to open it. He uses his express privileges with a key card. Turns it on. He's able to contact. Hello, engineer? Yeah? Hello? They're not used to getting calls through this. They almost have never had anybody call them through this. They've actually considered uninstalling these. But he's called him up on it, and he's like, there, you need to stop the train immediately, Godwin says. Wait, what? Who is this? This is Godwin with the military, and you need to stop the train immediately. Are you even looking at your instruments? Godwin is shouting at him now. There is a benzamite leak in the baggage claim. He looks around. C1. It's in C1. Are you even looking? You need to stop the train immediately. The engineer's like, okay, yes, you're right, okay. They start handling it. Godwin yells at him again, and he hangs up the thing. He looks back. He's like, I don't want to be in the room. There's spark. It's just fireworks start to go out, and he's like, what the? And he runs through the door, and he slams it shut. Goes through the anteroom, opens up. He looks around. He sees there's no sign of Andrea. No sign of her at all. People have already come out of their compartments. They're confused. He grips his chest. He leans up against the wall. Just stop the train. Just stop the train. And he's thinking to himself, I've got to find her. I've got to find her before they stop the train. I've got to find her before they stop this train. Otherwise, she's gonna get away when they stop it. She might be crazy enough. He knows what she's planning now. He's figured it out. So he goes running through, looking and praying to whoever will listen that those two officers, that whatever imbeciles he left with his two officers, have figured out how to cover up, at least stop the blood flow for the love of all that is good. And he goes searching through the compartments looking for her, but he's finding no heads or tails of her, and he realizes, I'm spending too much time. She might have run several blocks down. His mind isn't quite working quite well, and he's like, I need to snap into mode now, but the benzamite has thrown him off. He's scared. He doesn't find her. The train comes to a halt. It takes it maybe about 10 minutes with him frantically trying to open up doors, look, and he realizes, in any of these compartments she could have hidden in the carry-on baggage or hidden underneath, or found some way. In one room there was something in there, and he's already broken a couple of regulations. You're allowed to search compartments, but you have to have more official warrants, and he didn't have one. He was allowed to ask questions, but he was technically breaking the rules by asking one of them to come out. It was a gamble he was willing to make that maybe it would be overlooked because he does not want her to get away, and he's not in a good place right now. The train has stopped. He goes to check on his men first. He realizes, okay, they're about as stabilized as they're going to get. It turns out there was somebody who, an assigned doctor for the area, who they were able to get a hold of, and he was able to do a little more actual work. And he actually approaches that particular doctor when he realizes he's the one who's been able to do some better work. And he's like, he puts his hand on his shoulder, this big thick hand, and he's like, thank you. Thank you. And he's like, I will make this up to you. I'm high in the government. I will make this up to you. I swear to all that is good. And he slams him on the back, and it almost makes the poor doctor's glasses come off as he's like, well, thank you. Wait, is that Richter Godwin? And people are very slowly starting to realize who this is, because they've mostly just heard the voice. They haven't really seen the face, but he does have a distinctive voice, just a way that he kind of presents himself. And some of them are kind of like, I heard he was huge. Is that, he's military? Is that, no, it can't be Richter Godwin. It can't be that guy, the guy who made those speeches. Godwin doesn't care. He goes to speak with the engineer, and he's even tried telling people there is an escaped convict. Blonde hair, tall, lanky, bony. Have you seen her? If you have, citizen's arrest. I need to speak with her. She is armed and dangerous. And he's trying to rally people, but nobody's seen her, or they're not fessing up to it, or whatever. And it takes him way, way longer than he wanted. It takes him like 20 minutes tops before finally he finds a compartment that he hadn't checked before. He hadn't been thorough enough. The window was open. Haven't described the scenery that much, but they have been passing through a field. It's just open field, and out there is orange, tall, high grass. They've just been going through long fields of it, and even in the distance you can see some rather large four-legged creatures occasionally come up out of the grass, but a little eerie, and he's like, we cannot be stopped here for too long. And he's like trying to get the engineers, directing them to where they're supposed to go, but he's just looking at this window that's been opened, and he's like, she's gonna die out there. And if she doesn't, that'll be even worse. I've screwed up. Okay. Keep it together, man. We'll see what happens to Andrea next week.